Farewell, Annie, and hello, Star Trek RPG shows. A very historic episode 293 today of, Trekland Tuesdays Live with me, Dr. Trekler Nemecek, coming at you right here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47 for some sanity, for some clarity, and the big picture in all things Star Trek. And I say all, that's kind of omnipotent. I know. I mean, enough, enough and newer. If you're seeing this on YouTube later, it's still a great show. But being live is being here with a special because today, as I've been threatening for a few months now, we are going to have a guest on TTL. And not only just the way it went down, though, not only one guest, but two on two completely different topics. I know, it's like Fred Allen and Allen's Alley. Google it. I talked to you last week about this kind of quiet revolution. I know it's not new to a lot of people. And it was new to me is the fact that I finally dived in and got the details. But especially when I know folks who are doing this, they're kind of pioneering, like so much has been happening lately, pioneering a whole new realm, not just in Trek. It's been going on outside our franchise, obviously, but within the Trek franchise, we've got pioneers doing it. I'm talking about the live action role play in this series, Clear Skies, right now, but also what's been the last year or two. And yeah, the pandemic accelerated that as it did with all things virtual. People not only got used to producing it, but the great unwashed audience finally got used to what it's like. When I was brought back to this, our Portal 47 guest this week is the Oscar Emmy winning Mike Westmore, who I had as an open house guest in 2018. And I went back and looked at the video and I remembered that it was 2 years before the pandemic and Mike was a little off about this whole on web camera thing. So we did it by phone with a slideshow from start to stop. So that was like, oh, and that was just 2018. That's how much the world has changed and how much the virtual companies have geared up and how much everybody has figured out how to make their experience, whether it's church or school or work or our fandom, a virtual experience. As I predicted in 2020, a couple of weeks for the lockdowns. Thank God, thank goodness for that. But what that reminded me of is just how fast this is all revolutionized. And today, Eliza Pearl is going to be with us and talk about, I talked about last week, they're coming up next week. They're in affiliation with Modiphius, who has Star Trek Adventures, the official licensed roleplay game, which is awesome. They're even doing it in some cooperation with Star Trek Online, which you would think they would be massive competitors. But they're all good. They're all good. And also, so she's coming up. She'll be with us just in a few minutes. But first up, and I hope everything's going well, I'm looking for our first guest who is going to, in a small way, but in a very personal way, talk about the loss we had last weekend. And it's Wednesday now. It's starting to fade a little bit. But I think what was so poignant about Annie Wersching's passing, well, first of all, she was only 45. She had 3 young sons and a husband. Very busy actress. We know her now from the Borg Queen of season 2 of Picard, although she had a guest role on an episode of Enterprise called Oasis that also, the big spotlight was, oh, look, it's Renee Auberjonois in the guest cast. And she was too, as a young actress. In fact, I read that it was her first TV role. So there you go. Star Trek had her in her destiny. I think what touched so many about Annie, and I want to talk about this anyway. I never had a chance to meet her or interview her. She got out to Mission Chicago in April. She was at Vegas in August. She died of cancer Sunday. But the thing is, as her husband shared on a GoFundMe page, they were raising money just for transition for the boys and him. A friend started it. She'd been acting for ages. So many other series, and yes, even franchises had a piece of her, claimed her as their own. I mean, you go to IMDb and the things that she is known for, the top 4, 24, first of all, and Runaways, and then Revolution, and then The Last of Us. And a lot of those fandoms had claimed her. We were kind of the last, not the latest late great, but she was a hard worker, worked all the time if you look at her credits. And apparently to everyone who worked with her on the Picard orbit that we know, just talked about what a what a great actress, but what a hard worker, what a wonderful person and fun. And I stumbled onto something that I shared, a little makeup video where she's lip syncing to We Are the World along with the makeup crew. And that kind of blew up, although I didn't find it. I was glad to pass it along. So most of us had not much of a chance to get to know her on the con circuit. A few lucky ones did. I didn't get over to interview her. My good friend Ian Spelling talked to her and had her on stage in a panel. So I regret that. It makes you think about our time here. So a lot of people have been talking about her life, their enjoyment of her, the loss as what a wonderful mother she was. A friend of mine was a friend of hers. Going to be cool. So Alex, are you there? Yay.
Hello.
Why don't you tell everybody how you knew Annie? Again, you guys weren't best buds. You didn't have dinner every night. Right. I know. But just talk about, because you told me, talk about how you knew her and your memory of her and how the news hit you when you heard.
Yeah, she was one of my first friends when I moved to LA. I had a friend who helped me get an apartment, and she was good friends with Annie. And so she introduced me to Annie, and so we all lived in the same building, and just one of my first experiences in this crazy city, LA. She was super nice, fun, smart. She could be kind of goofy sometimes. And she lent me her truck one time. I was, trying to get some stuff into my apartment, and she was nice enough to do that. I'm a singer-songwriter and a creativity coach. And as a singer-songwriter, she came to see some of my shows. So she'd come out to the Sunset Strip and watch me sing. So that was great. And later on, we also became concert buddies, and we went to some different shows together, which was also really fun. And I mean, I have nothing but great things to say about her. It was incredibly sad when I saw the news the other day because I hadn't realized that she was sick. So yeah, she was wonderful, and I'm glad that you all got to experience her a little bit. And I don't know what else I can tell you exactly. I'll tell you a little funny anecdote. We went to a Jewel concert, and I'm a big Jewel fan, and so I was sobbing the entire time just because it made me so emotional. And she was sitting there, and she, was asking me if I was okay every 5 minutes because I was falling apart. So anyway, just a wonderful person, warm, sweet, great mom, great friend, very loyal, very dependable. And the other thing I want to say about her is she just had that special spark that some people have, that special like it factor. I remember that right away, just thinking, I think she's really going to go somewhere. And she did. So
yeah. This started because I remember when she was cast. And I know Alex from our entrepreneur cycles, and I'm sorry I didn't give you a proper introduction. Alex is a music artist. She is the founder of Creative Self Revolution. You should look her up. You should check that out. And we have an entrepreneur community, business community. But you were nice enough to say when the news came out, you went, Larry, that's so cool. I know Annie and knew her from back when. And sometimes it's not even those it's not the working relationships. It's the just casual hang relationships that you said. Yeah. So anyway, so you just kind of watched her career go by, knowing. I mean, did you even watch it after you had that occasion to fall in for a few years, or root her on?
This last, the concert buddy stuff was about like 5 years ago, maybe. So she was pretty far in at that point. She hadn't done. I think she'd done Castle at that point. So I watched her and stuff. I watched her in Bosch and watched her in 24, and I haven't seen the Star Trek yet, which you're all going to be mad at me for, but I'm definitely going to check it out.
We have to have a growth curve from somewhere, Alex. So
yeah, so I followed what she was doing, and I'll tell you the weirdest thing was that the day before the announcement was made, I thought about her, and I went to look on her page, and I was like, I wonder what she's doing right now. And I went over to IMDb, and I was like, I wonder what what show she's going to be on. And like literally the next day, the first thing I saw on Sunday was the notice about that she passed. And so it was, that was a weird little universe thing. I don't know, but it's really sad. I'm really, really happy to see everybody saying all these wonderful things about her, because I know that she she really valued her work and her working relationships, and that was important to her.
Mhm.
But she didn't let it go to her head. She wasn't like, yeah, I've been on all these shows. She was just the same as she always was. So I also really appreciated that about
Well,
her.
there's something about having young kids, especially maybe 3 young boys, that will keep you honest.
Yeah, that probably helped
I
her.
can vouch for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So she was great. I mean, I don't know what other questions I can answer, but I can just verify everything else you've been reading about her, that she really was a one of a kind.
Mhm.
She always made me feel good, when I was around her. And
Yeah.
so
Well, again, I didn't want to put on for anybody, like you said, you didn't want to misconstrue anything, but a lot of them on Picard, like I said, it was only the Picard series people had worked with her, unless they had a chance to work with her somewhere else. But professionally, people were just, outpouring, and people from the other franchise, the other series and projects she'd worked on too. And the fandom, again, some people had their snaps with their selfies with her from Chicago and Vegas. But the vast bulk of fandom did not get a chance to know that. Well, always have her performance, which was incredible, and many people would say it was one of the highlights of Picard season 2, especially even those who are the most critical of the season. I know you haven't seen it yet, so I guess that maybe that's a. I should say now you know your kind of Trek basics, or if you sit down to watch her performance, are you going to be lost or? Not to
oh
put
my
you
God, you're putting me on the spot here in front of all these amazing
No,
Trek.
no. It's all good. You just
I know like a little bit, but I probably wouldn't know exactly what was happening with her.
Well, I think they have it constructed where you'll be fine. And if you're primarily, it doesn't matter how much your Trek cred is or not. She gave an incredible performance, and it was tricky. It wasn't just your straight up, oh, here's bad guy, here's hero. She had a very interestingly bizarre kind of tour de force performance, I think.
She was interesting because she often got played kind of like the bad guy. She got cast as like a serial killer a couple times, like on Castle. She was fantastic at it, but it was so weird because she was such a kind, sweet person. So
Well,
I do want to say one other thing for her.
that's why they call it acting, but yes.
Yes. Well, she was really good. Is that her family did set up a GoFundMe campaign to help her husband and her boys, and it's going well. But if anybody appreciated her work and wants to help them, that's something you can do. It's on her Instagram page, probably on Twitter and some other places too.
Yeah, it's the original posts that I put up had it also. So anyway, thanks for. Didn't want to make again too big a thing out of it, but I just thought fandom, Trek fandom is was just getting used to just meeting her. So I just thought, since I knew you and we could do this easily, just a word here as people are still getting to realizing how much we barely knew ye, Annie, in Trek fandom, but you knew her before that. So thanks for coming in and Alex being my very first guest. Since I didn't even know with a little tech hiccup there. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, that feels
awesome.
Special. So thank you all, and yeah, it was just nice to get to honor her for a minute and tell you how wonderful she was, because
and what's your music? How did anybody find your music if they wanted to do that?
My music, which she came to see. So if you want to hear what that was like, I'm at Alex Music Site on Instagram, and I'm at Creative Self Revolution on Instagram too.
Which tagline for Creative Self Revolution is?
Oh dear. Well, I'm a creativity coach, and so I help people be more creative on a personal development level and also on a professional level. It's something that can help every single part of your life, and so I help people really reconnect to that part of themselves, whether that's in the sort of corporate workforce setting or whether that's in a personal setting for people who've lost connection with who they are. And I believe creativity is very important, and you all support creativity as you support, like, this entire universe that you're part of is so creative. So I just want to help more people use that part of themselves.
Yes. And I know you don't emphasize it now, but before the pandemic, you affiliated with me to do an Instagram workshop for folks from Star Trek and for Cosplay World. So some folks may even remember you from that, since we were promoting that. Anyway, thanks for coming by today and dropping in and doing this. And
thank you
again,
all.
Thank you again, Alex, and thanks for sharing a little Annie with us, Annie Wersching, today. All right. Yes. Okay. So I was mentioning, so thank you, Alex, again for doing that. And I think she's going to circle around and get back in the chat. So again, guys, gals, peeps, it's kind of an historic day in several ways. So our next guest Our next guest is not Senator Claghorn. No. Again, we were talking about games last week. The comeback, the rise and fall and the rise of Star Trek RPGs. And somebody I've had my eye on in a world that's rapidly changing on so many fronts. But coming full circle back around, I finally kind of got it here in the last month or so. And since there's a whole new series starting, I wanted to have her in to tell you firsthand, because you all know, I just explained, I am not the world's hugest gamer. I've always had my distance for various reasons, one of them which was canon fatigue and all the years when licensed products came and went. But you know what? Star Trek Online has been around for 12, 13 years now, and Star Trek Adventures is blowing it up. And so I'm going to ask in now, out of the purgatory room, my good friend Eliza Pearl. Boom. How does this work? It works great. Eliza, hi.
Hello. Hi. Hi, Larry.
I'm saying it's so good to see you like this. And thank you again. It's a historic day. This is the first day I've been doing this for 5 years. And I'm finally, as a one-man band, no crew, we've come so I can do this. And you are no stranger to the expansion of tech in virtual. So everybody say hi to Eliza. Tell us. Now, I'm going to say real quick, I met Eliza because she was the captain of the first improv comedy, although not always a comedy, ship Next Generation Air. A lot of you may have remembered it or saw their videos or maybe even came live. The Improvised Generation. I'm presenting to you here, Captain Thompson. But Eliza, you have many, many hats. She's an actress, improviser, and I'm saying professional gamer, which is a thing that the exports have had it for ages. So why don't you tell me what's happening? And most of all, what's going on with, I talked a little bit about it last week, but you're here in the flesh. So let us know what's going on.
Yeah. So as you said, I'm an actor, writer, producer, video game writer now, becoming one. And I have been also a professional tabletop role-playing game performer / game master, dungeon master for the past several years. And it's something that I just kind of, I say I fell into it, but I think funny enough, because of the Improvised Generation, that Star Trek improv show we were doing, and the fact that I was like a writer at that time and an actor, I kind of, it all just converged into becoming a tabletop role-playing game professional, because those are all the skills that you kind of can pull upon when you're doing that professionally. So the current game that we are about to launch this Monday is called Clear Skies Perseverance, and it is a Star Trek Adventures game. My independent group, Streampunks RPG, we are a group of...
I'm sorry, I didn't mention Streampunks, but yes.
Yeah.
Would you say that's the producer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we're producing it, and then we're partnering with Modifius, who's the game publisher of Star Trek Adventures. Yeah, there's our promo image.
This is our high-tech graphics, but yeah.
Yeah, and you can see all our partners down there at the bottom. So Modifius, Star Trek Online, we're the Streampunks, and then Cryptic Studios, which produces Star Trek Online. So Star Trek Online, we're actually streaming this on their Twitch channel, and it's their first ongoing TCRPG series. So it's like, it's just kind of a convergence of all of these people and partners and groups that all love Star Trek and are doing Star Trek games together now.
So now this is not the first one. There was a Klingon. Now it may not have been the same arrangement of affiliates and partners, but I saw you doing your videos of getting into your Klingon non-prosthetic makeup, which looked awful good. I mean,
thank you.
Really good.
I knew what you meant. It was a very Klingon way of saying it.
But it was like, and for those taking, keeping score at home, it was like, if you really thought about it, it was gaming, it was improving, gaming, acting, and even makeup and cosplay.
Right.
Combining all those skills.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so you're right. This is not the first time we've done a Star Trek Avengers campaign. Me and Eric both were game masters of the Blood of the Void. He started it off as the game master, and then I took over. And then we also did 2 other Starfleet, like Starship, kind of classic Star Trek Avengers campaign. The first one was called Shield of Tomorrow, and that was with Geek and Sundry. And then the other one was called Clear Skies, and that was our first game as an independent group, the Streampunks, as the Streampunks. And then Blood of the Void was kind of simultaneous with that one as well.
Yeah. And Clear Skies is not it's just your brand.
Yeah.
It's a universe. It's yours. It's something else
Mhm.
you're a part of that was preformed. What was the story?
No, yeah, Clear Skies. So that first Clear Skies campaign, Eric ran that. I wasn't a regular player in that, but I was a guest. And so that was just kind of reestablishing our own little sandbox because Shield of Tomorrow was on the Geek and Sundry channel. It's owned by a different, like that show is
Right.
owned by a company and we don't really own that. So we were like, we still want to play Star Trek Adventures. Those characters are now in that campaign owned by someone else. So we'll just start our own fresh new sandbox. And that's what Clear Skies is. And so Clear Skies Perseverance, if you think about it, like if TNG is Clear Skies is the TNG, then Clear Skies Perseverance is like our DS9. It's kind of like just moving over to this part of the sandbox in that same world.
Look at the cast you've got, and I know one person everybody knows. Most people they're on the it's Bonnie Gordon, who is making a name for herself in many ways. She's multi-talented too, but folks know her as voice of the Prodigy computer on the Protostar, and she did a character at the finale. But she's getting around and she's cabaret singing and the whole nine yards and all of that. But you've got a great cast. Those are all voice actors, or they're gamers who have been other franchises, or who else is in the show?
Yeah. So by the way, Bonnie, we've been playing with Bonnie since Shield of Tomorrow. Like she was one of the original cast members as well.
So she predates, or at least at the same time.
Yeah. Bonnie is like a veteran. I was gonna say veteran, but yeah, like she, just like me and Eric and Sam, like we've all been gaming together since like 2017 or earlier. And Bonnie was right there with us too on Shield of Tomorrow. And so I love that she is busy with so much other stuff, but she's definitely I definitely want to come and play. She's making time because we love playing together. And this is a really great, fun space for us as performers and as Trekkies to just have fun, create some content, and it's just the best. We love doing it. But yeah, our cast, so besides Bonnie, we have Danielle Radford, who has been on Honest Trailers. She's an amazing comedian, writer, actress. She's popped up in a lot of other nerd media as well because she's a big old nerd. And we have Noir Enigma, who's an incredible game master and TTRPG performer and diehard Trekkie, DS9, like Captain Sisko for life. Noir is like the DS9 fan. And then, of course, Eric Campbell, who is getting to actually play as a player for the first time in Star Trek Adventures, because he's been a game master in it for years and has never gotten to actually be a full player, not just guessing, but just like at the table every week. So we're super excited for him to have that experience. And then Sam DeLev, who is our co-producer and again, one of the OGs, Streampunks, Shield of Tomorrow. Sam is incredible and always comes up with these amazing characters who are very layered and interesting. And Sam is also an incredible advocate for disability and for gender nonconformity and non-binary people. And just like Sam is my hero. Sam is awesome. And then who else? We have Jade Law, who is coming back to our table. She was on the Blood of the Void Klingon campaign. So now she's playing a human, not a Klingon.
And what was the name of the Klingon campaign?
Blood of the Void.
Blood of the Void.
Yes.
How do you get more Klingon spacey than that for a campaign? Yeah.
Yes.
So
yeah. And then there's one more cast member. I would be remiss to not mention Caitlin Bruder, who has been playing with us for the past year on other campaigns at Streampunks, and she's an incredible performer and character creator, and also an incredible artist. And some of our promo art has been put together by Caitlin as well.
So everybody there was a Trek fan, as well as being, and you had one that was a game master, hadn't played, but everybody is back home, whatever, growing up, kid, recently gamer. So you've got gamers.
Yeah, so
nobody's a rookie here. There's no let's watch them develop. Okay.
There's no rookies. Exactly. Yeah. There's no rookies, but everyone has varying levels of like Trek knowledge and Trek fandom. I think everyone's definitely a Trekkie, but some people are like me and you, like have too much Trek in their brain. And some people are kind of like more have watched TNG and maybe some of the newer Trek, or not as like well versed on Star Trek. So we have definitely a range.
The game master. Oh wait, you are.
Yeah. We definitely have a range of like Star Trek knowledge, which is great because the thing for me, when I play these games, I always want to bring in newer people, and it's not about like adhering to Trek canon because we're creating our own stories, and that's the beauty of like, yes, I would love to write on a Star Trek series, but the beauty of being a game master of a Star Trek Adventures game is that this is our sandbox. We are choosing what canon to honor, and we're creating our own otherwise.
Not
And
unlike the years that you were Captain Thompson and
absolutely,
the crew of the
absolutely,
McKinley doing the same
yeah,
thing, taking the universe and making
exactly,
it your own. And if some things got bent or invented, or whether it was for
yep,
fun or whatever, so be it.
so be it, exactly.
And your Bible here is the Star Trek Adventures manuals, basically. Yeah.
Yep.
Which are awesome. I showed
Yeah.
off last week, and I don't know if you knew this. So for all those not with us last week, since I haven't put anything away, this is the deluxe edition, and I'm sure you know it very well.
Yes, I
And
love
you know
it.
it's inside, right? On the
I
front
do.
sleeves. Yay!
Yeah.
It's our official Klingon, layout for the Empire, and then
I have your map right here, Larry.
back sleeve.
I told you, I have my map hanging up here. I can show you.
Well, I said when they first came up with the idea and approached me of this of the posters. Yeah. Oh, wow. There you go,
Yeah.
gang.
That's Larry's map from the Stellar Cartography book.
Yes. And I should say, I'm trying to think who, mine and the artists that made it happen. Always want to say I didn't do the nebulas.
Yes.
Allie did the nebular maps that were really, really pretty. Allie Reese. And map 10 is Jeff Mandel's.
Nice.
But I knew when they had that idea and said posters, for one thing, you'd look online and everyone was taking Jeff's original book and making scans of those pages and trying to, people were frustrated because it was limited by the book format. And the minute they said posters,
it's hard. Like I can only imagine how much work went into making all of these maps because the quadrants are laid out as if they're a grid, but it's a galaxy. So there's depth, and some areas like one star system is going to be down here and one's going to be up here. So like, I can only imagine how hard that must've been to put those.
Well, there's fans. Well, it's, I didn't invent it. This is a fun science that goes back to the 70s and different versions but everybody was always dealing in 2D.
Right.
We didn't have a hollow.
Right.
We're starting to get to the idea now where we might eventually have little hollow viewers, but the 2D is also covered up a multitude of sins of as we try to reconcile with the real science and what the writers didn't know, and the famous, this week Warp 9 is going to fudge for this much. Right. So some of that goes into it, but overall, taking finally the format that Mike Okuda came up with in TNG when the Ferengi pod and Geordi and Data were chasing them and they had to be stranded, and Mike came up with the quadrant system as a quickie way to get that across. And then they started putting it, where the Klingons and Romulans are down here. Oh, now the Borg and Bajor is going to be over here for DS9. And Voyager's going to go into the, so it gradually got to be, we'll throw the Borg in the Delta quadrant. And that way they can be, so all of that was. And then Jeff Mandel came in and threw the real science at it even more than Mike had. And for Enterprise, because Enterprise was close in and they weren't all over the place. So anyway, there's always been, I talk about this with Andre or with Dr. Aaron, is, the real science overlap that people have tried to bring to it, retcon if it wasn't there to begin with. So anyway, the thing about those maps is they were built over time. I didn't do anything out of the bill. I got to update them, and they had the poster idea. And the bottom line to this is, I said, "Oh my God, whatever stripe of gamer they are, gamers are going to love these."
Yeah,
and put them under plastic and do either if you're doing click ships or you're just planning a story or whatever you're doing, people are going to love that. And so, long story short, too late to say, every time I see a gamer that has the maps on the wall or on the table, I'm just like,
yeah. And talk, like, to bring back what you said before about the digital expansion of gaming, that's the thing. Like I have just as, well, maybe not just as many, but I have a lot of physical tools, like right here. Like I have a physical rules summary from Star Trek Adventures on my desk. I have 2 of the books here. I have the Game Master screen, all physical. And then I have the physical map, but I also have a lot of digital tools as well So I think that's the beauty of TTRPG gaming right now. We have virtual tabletop tools, we have map making tools, which I'm about to dive into for Clear Skies Perseverance, like making some maps for our facilities. And I love that it's not just, I love tactile things. I always love to have like the physical book
Mhm.
and get to like write and make tabs and things like that. But the digital tools are so, so useful as well.
From scrambling. Now, we've been talking about all this, and most people get what gaming is like, but what is this? I mean, I think you had a preview night last week. You're going to start talk about what's happening, but what is the viewer? It's you guys are on camera, so are we just watching you play and game, or what
Yeah.
are we? What's the audience do? Do they pay to get in? Can anybody watch? I mean, how does it work? What's the experience?
Anyone can watch. It's just, we are on twitch.tv/Cryptic Studio, which is the Star Trek Online Twitch channel. It is free to watch. If you like to support us, you can subscribe to our Coffee or our Patreon, which is Streampunks RPG on either of those pages, ko-fi, if you haven't heard of that website yet. You can support us that way. And if you do support us there, you can get, depending on what level you sign up for, you can get some insider info and special content from all of our different games that we have going on. But otherwise, it's free to watch. We have the live show on Mondays, and then it will go up in the VODs, video on demand, on our YouTube, which is Streampunks RPG. And that's it. It's like pretty much you just click on that link and you watch it. The shows are 3 hours, so a lot of people who are regular watchers of TTRPGs will either have it on in the background as they're washing dishes or taking care of their home or whatever, or when they're working too. Some people like to have some like background noise, or you can just sit and watch like it's a 3-hour show, or you're binge watching 3 episodes of Star Trek.
Do you get so the Klingon series, Blood of the Void? That's so great. And the first one, the agents, not Agents of Shield.
That mistake happened a lot early on, I remember.
I was going to say, so do you get like the equivalent? I mean, it's comments in your threads, but do you get the equivalent of fan mail? I mean, you have a lot of feedback.
Yeah, with Shield of Tomorrow, with all of the shows we have what we call the Aux Crew, which is short for auxiliary crew, and they are just the group of fans that has snowballed. It's, over the years, we've gained different people, but they are like this core group of fans who are mainly our Coffee and Patreon supporters, and also have been here with us from the beginning when we started playing Shield of Tomorrow. And a lot of those members would send us fan mail, send us really lovely letters and cards, and then also like make us art and make us things. Like they're all in the other room, but my character was a Vulcan science officer, and they would like make us, like, I have a couple of dolls that people made of us, like a Funko Pop version of my character, and a knit doll, and a little penguin version of her. I also have this like a dice tray, a custom made Star Trek dice tray. Like people were very sweet and generous. And then fan art, like you might have to scroll back now, but if you search like Aux Crew Shield of Tomorrow hashtags on Twitter, you would find tons of fan art from just over the years. And one of our players now, Caitlin Bruder, was one of the people who early on was making fan art of our first game. And she now has become one of our ensemble members.
The first time somebody sent me fan art of my McCoy for those 2 episodes of Continues, it was like, oh, okay. It was like, I get it. When all the actors talk about having their action figure for the first time.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. I'm doing some new muscles here today. So normally the chat is just going by and it's just me yapping. And we've got people acting like a normal chat. And I'm trying to see, you don't get the chat, do you?
I see. Yes, I do.
You do see. Okay. I'm trying to.
Oh, it's all of them, huh? I see YouTube and Facebook and Twitch.
We're global. We have Germans, we have Brits, we have
Germans, we have Brits. I'm sorry, that sounded like a musical, and I just needed to sing it for a second. That happens.
I would not be the one to stop you.
Sometimes I sing things randomly. Hi, everybody. I'm now looking at the chat. Hey, folks.
Yeah. I back scrolled to about 1350 here. 1350 on your dial.
1350. Okay.
Somebody said, okay, so hold on a minute.
Wow.
So Duralta, who is German, he says, how long did it take you to do your Klingon get-up makeup?
Oh goodness.
It was all makeup. It was all brush and paint.
Makeup, and I did prosthetic. The nose ridges, no prosthetics, nose ridges and shading. So it was like eyeliner and shading. And I think, when I first was figuring out how to do it, I went on YouTube and I did a couple of tries just to figure it out. Once I figured it out, by the way, I was the game master of that game for most of the time. So when I was a player for like a few episodes, I think no more than 30 minutes. Yeah, to get it
It's
like the
all
makeup
yeah. There's no
done.
gluing. There's no drying. There's no. I
Right.
mean,
It's just
you're
putting
just
on. It's about knowing where to put things, right? Once you figure out how
yeah.
to do it, you can just do it each
And
time.
kind of had a shorthand, like use
Yeah.
light and shadow,
I
highlight
think
and
the
shadow.
makeup itself maybe even 20 minutes, and then putting on my I think I wore either a wig or my hair was a certain way, and then I had like, my Klingon armor that I wore for that. So yeah, probably like no more than 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay, I'm trying to see. Doralta says you can never have too much Trek on your brain.
That is a good point.
Yeah. Let's see. Nathaniel says, I'm glad the topic of RPGing Trek is getting covered again. Well, I mean, I said this last week, just in a broad swath, when everything computer and digital came in, it kind of made everything tabletop take a back seat and everybody went gaga for but it's like the real world CG world. You could have almost too much and then things go back to the analog versions, I guess you'd say. And
Yeah, I
so the rise of Star Trek Adventures on its own as a viable financial commercial thing, and people are playing. And then the pandemic,
Oh yeah,
you had Zoom fatigue. So yeah, you could you could virtually game, but people, if they have a pod, then they love that connection, a small way.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just like, I thought I saw.
And by the way, I'm seeing a lot of people, when we were talking about the improvised generation, and you can find all of these shows that I mentioned on YouTube. So if you search just the name, so Blood of the Void, Shield of Tomorrow, the original Clear Skies, and the improvised generation, you can find all of those shows on YouTube.
Just Google them. So Nathaniel says, since it's a tradition to modify or hack the rules of RPGs, what ideas have you brought into STA to make it work for your players?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm trying to think. I'm not sure if there's any specific mechanics that I've brought in. I know we have some house rules, and we typically will do some type of meta currency. So in the game rules, there's the momentum is the meta currency for the players, where they can kind of use a point of momentum to gain some type of benefits or create an advantage or keep the initiative in game. And so in the Stream Punks, our tradition has been, because we have coffee supporters, when you're at a certain level or higher, you can.
So coffee is another version of Patreon?
Yeah. And we have both, but we're mainly on coffee. We just have kept the Patreon open for the people who are kind of still on Patreon and haven't switched over to coffee yet. So coffee is the place that people should sign up if they'd like to. But on our coffee, at the higher levels, you also get to contribute a story point to our game. And I haven't decided how I'm going to implement it in our game yet, but there will be something where, it'll be a different type of meta currency from momentum. So I'm still working that out for this game.
So people can contribute specific points or whatever.
Yeah. And so what happens is that if someone in the game is saying, I really want to I want to make sure this roll goes well, or I want an advantage, I want to use a story point, then the game master, usually it's Eric, now it's me, will go to our list of contributors and say, okay, let's say, Der Alte Trekkie, your story point is going to be used. Thank you, Der Alte. So you get a little shout out in the game.
I was going to say, it needs to be like, like adopt a highway or something.
Yeah.
And you say, and we'd like to thank.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it.
For that adjective or something, whatever, That's awesome. So speaking of Doralta, he said, are there Shield of Tomorrow fanfics yet?
Oh my God, yes, there are.
Seriously?
I don't know how to find them, but I think you can find them if you search on the internet really hard.
Yep.
I know I saw some that popped up back when we were live. So yes.
Well, so that's the thing. How long is each series run? Are they uniform?
No. So Shield of Tomorrow ran for a year.
Wow.
And it was, and we did 3 hours a week for a year with very few breaks. We had, Larry, before all the new Star Trek came out, we had created more hours of Star Trek story than all of Star Trek. at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a lot. You can
I
watch
didn't
the whole thing
realize.
on YouTube.
I did not
It might
realize.
take time.
Okay.
So that was a year. Blood
Well,
of the
3 hours
Void.
a week for 52 weeks or 50, that's 150 hours. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think now actual Star Trek has surpassed because there's like several new shows at this point. But yeah,
Right.
we had that distinction for like a few years. And then Blood of the Clear Skies also ran for I think a year, maybe a year and a few months. And then Blood of the Void ran for about a year, but we were a monthly game, so it was once a month for
So
a
a little
year.
saner on you all.
Yeah.
I'm just like, wow.
I know. It's like it's again, because I just kind of like rolled into this lifestyle of being a gamer and tabletop gamer. I think back like some of our games like Shield of Tomorrow, we played at 10 p.m. We started at 10 p.m. I'm like, how did we do that? On stream, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m.
Pacific.
Like, yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're 2 a.m. in the East and
Yeah.
and then morning risers on the continent.
I cannot
by the way,
fathom doing that right now.
My friend Cairo here says, and Austrians are here too. Yes.
Hello, Austrians.
The German, yeah. So what is the plan for, well, part of the plan for Clear Sky, for, do you say Perseverance or Perseverance?
Yeah, sure. I say Perseverance.
I've listened to so much British TV now that I lapse into Perseverance because it sounds classier, but that's not what people are saying.
It does. I say Perseverance because that's the way NASA people say it. So
yes, yeah.
And it is our namesake. We're on Mars, and it is, very Mars inspired. So
what era is it?
So the year is 2414. So it's
okay.
It's a bit into the future.
Picard. A little pre where STO is right now. Right?
Exactly. We're actually, we're kind of sandwiched in the more recent years of STO timeline. And that's another fun thing for me as the game master, like going into this and preparing and figuring out where in time are we. Utopia Planitia, we're honoring the Picard, what was established in early season 1 of Picard about what happened on Utopia Planitia. I won't spoil it, but go watch that. Something really big happens. We honor that history, and I wanted to build a timeline based off of that, and then also include Star Trek Online's timeline. So that's what we're working with.
Is Mars still burning?
Mars has been re-terraformed, but it is a planet that went through a big not so natural disaster, a big disaster, let's say.
Right.
So every once in a while there might be some fire clouds. Yeah. But otherwise, yes, Mars has been restored and re-terraformed, and the station has been rebuilt. And which is why, as a game master, another thing is kind of nice because, like, I get to rebuild Utopia Planitia. Like, I decide. There you go. What buildings are where.
That is what I call, until it's on screen, that's what I call canon in a vacuum. It's like,
exactly.
If there's nothing there, come up with a good thing, and you can placehold that until somebody gets around to it in a year or 20 years or whatever. Yeah.
It'll always just be our little cocoon of story. Like, other things will negate it. Like Star Trek canon, I'm sure we'll revisit Utopia Planitia in more depth in the future. But that's okay. Our game is just in our little cocoon, and that's it.
I just had a boom, and I want to say, when did you need to leave us? We got on a roll, like I said.
Yeah, I know, right? I have like 6 minutes basically.
Okay. We're good. Because it'll just go back to me talking to the chat and looking at some stuff, and it'll be boring.
Yeah, were there more chat questions?
No, I started to say, you were talking about just you doing your cocoon of canon, but the gamers it took a while to get this going, but by the end of the Berman run, everybody running Enterprise, like Mike Sussman, had done the FASA game manuals, and they were pulling game points. They were, especially Andorian things were coming out of, not connected, not in a massive way, but they would pull words and concepts and weapons and people and plug them into scripts because they were invented. So there's bits of that, and then and yesteryear affected the animated show and even though they weren't canon at the time, but everybody used yesteryear as the basis for young Spock and Vulcans and weird little school cube dome things and what they look like. Anyway, my point is that a lot of and now we got the explosion of only 10 hours a year, but it's 5 series, and it's a whole plethora of different writers. And a lot of them are young writers coming up, and a lot of them are very much of the gaming era. So a lot of gamings and comics and books and book pieces are finding their way in even more. And so so don't knock it, what you're putting out there into the world, and your 300, your 300. I mean, either next year or 5 years from now, somebody may pull up one of your threads when they circle back around to Mars in 21 whatever. What year is it?
2414.
2414. Yeah, I was going to say 04, but 14. And that's kind of the field that Mike McMahon's bunch on Lower Decks is plowing, as you know, and even Prodigy's 2 years ahead of Lower Decks. They're all just on the other side of the synth, but some of those things about Mars and anybody that's putting it out there, and especially since you guys are in tandem with the affiliates, with the licensees there, in a there's so much quasi-officialness floating around. I'm just saying, don't be surprised if a year from now or 5 years or 10 years from now, somebody plucks something out of something you did.
There are certain things about our Utopia Planitia that I would be very delighted if they ended up in Star Trek canon.
Have you had any feedback from anybody working on
official Star Trek
generation? Yeah, or even like under the table communication, or we love what you're doing, keep it up, or
not I as a Lisa
have you
had
will now.
Yeah, well, yeah, hopefully. We're in a funny place because both with Improvised Generation and with our games, we're working with licensees, we're using licensed products, so we're not trying to it's kind of complicated. I don't even know if we should get into it here, but I guess what I'm saying is we always are respectful of canon. We're also respectful of Star Trek, and their, they own Star Trek. We're just creating our own. It's somewhere between fan content and something else. I'm not sure.
But at the same time, you're promoting the licensed RPG game. So and promoting, not promoting sales. Hey, go buy it. But obviously, if people want to go play, they have to, in the time-honored way that gaming is done, tabletop gaming.
Oh, totally. And we want them. And the whole point is not the whole point, but that's why we partner with these licensees, because we want to help bring people to those products and start their own games and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
I'm just scooping through questions here. Somebody, Daralta is always good for questions. He says, have you had one, I guess, and what was the most difficult Kobayashi Maru-esque RPG scenario that you cooked up? I talked last week about some pathological DMs back in the early days that were just designed the scenario just to kill people. To eventually kill people, like outsmart me, like it was a challenge. How, and then they would get enraged when you would outsmart it, and they would just really psychopathic days of D&D and things.
Yeah. So those, like the no win scenarios. Those, I love when those happen. Sometimes it's engineered and sometimes they just happen. And so the first thing I thought of was actually not even a Star Trek game. It was a private Buffy game that I ran for about a year. And there was there's a couple of funny things about this example I'm going to give, because first of all, the very first episode, I had created an NPC that I loved, which is always a mistake as a GM. Like, don't love those NPCs too much because they will get murdered by your party. Sure enough, I made this NPC who was supposed to be a big bad, and they literally just chopped her head off in one round of combat. Like, she was done. I was like, oh no. So I found a way to bring her back to life. She had some type of curse contract with a witch that made her unkillable. And then so she came back as a regular character. But what ended up happening is that they sort of took her under their wing, and she said, you know what, this witch is worse. The witch became the big bad evil guy. And then the party had to work with this vampire to defeat the big bad evil guy. So she became part of their group, and then she was trying to reform. She's like, oh, I've been a vampire for a long time and I'm never gonna die. I don't want to live this way. Maybe I should start a blood bank. Can you help me? So they were talking about helping her find a legit way, go clean. So that character. But anyway, the Kobayashi Maru to me was they can always just dust a vampire, right? But then at what point is it actually a better choice to choose to work with her? And by making her the key to defeating that witch character, that's why I was like, hey, you can't kill her this time. You actually need her. So yeah, that's the one I thought of. And then let's see, like the Klingon game, I feel like we had plenty of those.
That sounds very Klingon-esque.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Die with honor today, or have a dishonorable
or
continuance of life, or whatever.
yeah, I know one of our players, Quincy Suresmith, played a diplomatic Klingon. They all were warriors, right? They were all trained as warriors. Some of them were
the
from
fish out of
different
water
castes.
Klingon, like the clerics and the scientists.
Yeah,
Those are
yeah.
awesome to play.
Oh yeah, and what I loved about our party is that a lot of our characters, my players created characters that came from maybe like a farmer's caste and then became a warrior, or like the diplomatic and then was also a warrior, but was like a counselor to the high council members, or the head of a household, or a head of a Klingon house, something like that. But they all had very diverse backgrounds. And Quincy's character, I remember distinctly, there were definitely some times when things could have come to blows. I think there was a situation with some Nausicaans who had like gotten on their ship and were about to like throw down, and Quincy's character just totally quelled the situation somehow, and it was just
quelled.
Yeah,
that would be a great Klingon word with a Q. Yeah, I'm just
Klingon name. Yeah,
yeah, quellsome. Oh, Cairo from Austria, from Vienna, said, "Are you pulling in things that happen in the STO storylines?"
A little bit. Yeah, that's kind of in the background. There are some history and lore that will be mentioned from STO. And some of, not to give too much away, and also not to say too much in case it changes before it gets on screen. In general, what has happened in STO timeline informs how the Utopia Planitia station is currently running. If you think about it, the STO timeline, they have just come out of basically two wars back to back. And so this is a just slightly post-wartime shipyard. That's going to inform how things are done here.
So Nathaniel says, "Is there a Trek equivalent of the murder hobo?"
I think that would be Klingons.
Oh, listen, we should wrap up, I think. But so people, we got everybody revved up now. How do people find it? What's the hours? What's the deets?
Yeah, so we're live Mondays, 6 to 9 p.m. Pacific. We're on twitch.tv/Cryptic Studios at that time. And then if you're since we have a lot of folks in Europe, catch it live because it'll be pretty late for you. You can also catch it on the VODs on our YouTube, which is Streampunks RPG on YouTube.
Okay, or you can get up Rise and Shine. If you're 9, that's
6 to 9.
5. Yeah, it's 5 UK, 6 on the continent. I think it's 8 hours ahead of Pacific.
8 hours, yeah.
Yeah.
So 2 a.m. I think 6 to 9. 6.
Wait, 9 Pacific?
Yes, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking 9. Okay, yes, you're right. Yeah, it's 2 a.m. in Britain and 3 a.m. So it's like my evening portal sessions. So starts Monday and runs how many weeks?
We're doing roughly 3 months.
Okay. Getting saner on yourself, easier on yourselves there.
Yeah, we do seasonal now. And then that also lets us play different games. Like, we just finished a 3 or 4 month Alien campaign. And now we're doing Star Trek, and then we'll do something else in 3 months.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming by. Thank you for being on a big day for me. I had the with Alex.
Congratulations.
Smoothed out for you, and not one but two, because I wanted to make another mention. I almost tried to do this last week and it just didn't work out in time, but I just thought it was great timing. It was time to talk about the whole field. I talked about the history, and I'm sensitive to the fact that we're in a hiatus time. We're all waiting on Picard to come back. And so I've been kind of off on what are people doing to fill up their time in the hiatus. And this is an awesome way, whether you're gaming on your own or watching you all or both, and maybe jumping in on your Patreon and your coffee now. I was twice now in one day. I've had people talk about being on coffee, and I'm like, okay, I got to get caught up.
Oh, there you go.
So there we go. And we'll post links. We've mentioned them here. We'll get some links on our posted archive here too. So, but hey, thank you so much. So good to see you. Good to see you. Talk to you.
Yes, great to see you, Larry. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure thing. And we'll be watching Perseverance.
Yay! Woohoo!
Continent. Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks. Take care.
Bye-bye. And that, friends, is how we do that. All righty. If you're watching later on YouTube, come join us live if you can on Tuesday. But thank you even now, watching later. That's our first time to have actual guests on Trekland Tuesdays Live. Thank you, virtual world, for finally getting. So what was it? 2017? There was no way I could have. There was the production value to be a one-man band and have guests join you. I don't know if there was the bandwidth to have guests join you on a virtual stream. You were just lucky to throw your little signal out on Facebook Live. The whole big thing at the beginning was Facebook Live or Periscope. Facebook Live or Periscope. So anyway, to paraphrase, to paraphrase Buzz Aldrin, just get your ass to virtual. And that's what we did. So, hey, everybody, historic day today. Long overdue. I've been trying to get to this for the last few months, but here we are. Hello, 2023. Hopefully a better, shinier year in a lot of ways. And all of you all who got to join us. And if you're watching later, yeah, maybe you can jump in sometime live with us at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, 9 UK time, right? Yes. And 10 Central Europe. And if you are leaving us right now, please and thank you for joining us. And hey, here's where I love to shout out, and I need to update this. Please and thanks to our Patreons. I have Patreon. Maybe I should look at coffee. I don't know. But on our Patreons, I want to thank our TTL Club. Yep. Diana Hopkins, Robin Wilson, Lawrence Todd, Anne-Marie Siegel, Keith Rumbach, Justin Porteous, Nathaniel Robinson, Andrew Kazemski, Pranakash Productions, Gay Clevin Lundstrom, and Galinda Bruton. And hey, our live wires are just a notch. Have their own separate gang. Our live wires: Halbert Gunn Johnson, Robert McLean, Alan Hoense, J.R. Poole, Byron Bailey, David Gregory, and Casey Shafsky. Thanks so much, all of you all. And if you're wondering what the fuss is about, it's my simple dimple Patreon at Trekland/Trekland Live, $5 and $10 a month. And you can help support things like that. And thanks to all of you all for your support over the last year or so, finally allowing things to happen where I can breathe a little bit and everything else going on in Trekland and settle down to focus on this. One big thing, aside from Perseverance starting Monday, right here and now, if you're in SoCal area or if you're going on the cruise, this is the last call. The March is sold out. And February 23rd, a one-day special Trekland Treks. I call it the away days because it's pre-planned. We're going to 4 location sites and lunch in 6 hours the day before the cruise sails. I've got 9 folks. I have 4 seats open, and I just had a nibble about 2. So if you're thinking at all about this, you don't have to be on the cruise. So if you're just there, or if you just bring yourself to LA to come in with us, we're starting and stopping in Hollywood. It's 6 hours, 10 to 4-ish is the plan. I got 4 seats left. And by tonight, that may be 2. And I'm at the cutoff time. We've got the vehicle. I know that. It's the little extras we need to get on with. So if you're interested, let me know ASAP. Of course, it's another week for the Trek Files. Oh my gosh, we are into I guess we're on top of things because I'm thinking of things in terms of season. We're on a dead run to the end of our season coming up in a few weeks. And we are really in a Picard mode. We've had Dave Blass, production designer, and the great Terry Metalis, since I've known from his assistant days, it's so awesome that he's climbed the ladder in Hollywood and running shows now, 12 Monkeys and now Picard. Our guest this week is a break from that because it's the 25th anniversary of Star Trek The Experience. Gary Goddard, who owned and drove, was the creative genius behind the Landmark company that worked on theme park rides and attractions and concepts. He was a huge Trek fan. His history with the abortive first plan for Vegas, and then what we all know is Star Trek The Experience. And we've got storyboards from Paramount that he said, this is nice, but we can do better. That's all on the Trek Files this week. It's been out already. You can go over to the Trek Files on Facebook and get the storyboards, the documents this week. But of course, you can get the podcast wherever fine podcasts are caught. And of course, podcast.roddenberry.com, home for all the great podcasts. Mission Log Live is still on hiatus. They'll be back in a couple of weeks. But we are marching down the line to our season finale. You don't want to miss the last 2 shows this season. You don't want to miss this one. You don't want to miss the last few we had before it. Okay, If you're leaving us now, I'll just remind you that I'm at Larry Nemecek on Mastodon and Twitter. Larry Nemecek's Trekland. Everything you're watching right now, wherever you are, please like and subscribe us, especially on YouTube and Instagram. And portal47.net if you want to. Never lose that con blues feeling or the post-cruise blues. You want to be there all year long? It's a mini-con all year long, portal47.net, with guests and roundtable and my stuff. It's a lot of fun. We've got Portales in the chat today. Take a look and join us. And for right now, if you're leaving us on YouTube, I will just say, please, 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 stay healthy. Do all the things. Stay woke, and I mean check your sources. And trek well.